Hey, how's it going? So today I'm talking about a couple reasons why I support the legalization of gay marriage and why how being a Christian actually makes me support that also. Um, I hope, I'm going to be talking about my faith a little bit, so I hope it doesn't turn some of you guys off. Bear with me because I have to talk about it if I'm to talk about how it actually makes me support gay marriage. So, um, So really, I did a video like a month ago in response to one by Captain Burrs, and I think I'm subscribed to him. You can probably find him, and so I have to give him credit for a couple of the things that I'm going to say. So I'll start off with that. He was doing a video in response to gay marriage being legalized in Washington, and he was saying that he was surprised and that people should have been outraged, really, instead of cheering, and outraged that it took so long for um, the government to give them that right. And in actuality, really, they should have never even had the authority to give them that right, anyways. And I don't remember if he used the analogy or if I did, but I think it's kind of like if someone was to take your food and then you wanted them to give it to you back and they gave you some and then you started cheering. When you should have been outraged because who cares if they gave it to you back? It was never theirs to take from you in the first place. And so I kind of agree with that. I don't believe that that the government should have uh, any say in marriage. I mean, in that case, maybe I'm against the legalization of it only because I'm against the legalization of any form of marriage. It's who Nobody should have the authority to tell me who I can or can't marry, and therefore, I believe, do unto others. Uh, I shouldn't be able to tell someone who they can or can't marry. So, so it kind of is a reason why I'm libertarian. Ron Paul, he says it's, kind of similar thing. He can believe something is wrong, but doesn't mean that he believes it's his place to keep people from doing it. Um, I believe that it's only our place to keep someone from doing something if it's going to take away a liberty from someone else, their property or their life or something like that. So in that case, then yes, I believe it's okay to tell somebody, no, you can't do this. Obviously, I mean, but anyways, in Washington, George Washington had a really good quote, and it goes something like, "While we are contending for our own liberty, we should be cautious not to violate the rights of conscience in others, ever considering that God alone is responsible for the hearts of men, and to He alone are they responsible to in these things." Really great quote. So that kind of influences my beliefs, my belief of the legalization of gay marriage. Before I get to just being a Christian, I'll kind of tell something, and how that affects my support of the legalization. Let me give another example. I was in the military, and I heard about these Westboro Baptist church people who were protesting funerals of soldiers, and some of my family was outraged. They were mad, and they were posting things on Facebook and saying the usual, those soldiers died for your right to say that, and I just want to. So I was like, look, you're exactly right. But just because they died for that right doesn't mean that now you should expect people to suspend that liberty that the person just died for. Even if it means that it allows them to say something that I might disagree with, because I would fear a state where people couldn't say the things that they believed, including if it disagrees with what I believe. So, in that case, hey man, let them protest or whatever, as long as they're not like right there on the side of the funeral. I think they have to be a couple hundred yards away or something like that. And, man, if they were to come protest at my funeral, feel free to do it. Yeah, feel free. All right, because not that I'm ever going to go do it, but if I wanted to protest something, I'd want to be able to have the liberty to do that also. So now let me get to how being a Christian affects my support, my view of it. So again, bear with me because I got to talk about my faith a little bit, right? So just, I'm not trying to preach, but Jesus supposedly says the two greatest commandments are love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And if I'm to love my neighbor as myself, I have to put myself in his shoes and think about how would I feel if somebody did those things to me. So, I'm married, and I can tell you this: I would be pissed off if somebody told me I couldn't get married to my wife, and I couldn't get married to a woman, because they believed it was wrong. I'd be pissed. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I don't know if gay people have a lot of patience or what, but man, I'd be pissed. It would not be anyone's place to tell me who I can or can't marry. So I would not want someone to do that to me, and I therefore cannot do that to someone else if I'm to love my neighbor as myself, because I certainly enjoy that freedom, that liberty to decide who I want to, make this agreement with, that I love them, that I'll stay with them, whatever. Never should have been the state's, place to say who I could, who you can marry, and it shouldn't be anyone else's, place either. So that's one part of it. The other part is, I kind of have to, and it goes along the lines of loving your neighbor as yourself. I have to, if I'm a Christian and I believe God has these standards of, do this, don't do that. And if I'm honest, I can tell you I'm a terrible Christian, right? I don't do a lot of the things I should, and I do a lot of the things I shouldn't. And that must mean that God gives me some liberty. And some people would claim he makes you do things, whatever. Either way, I'm able to do these things that he says not to do, or vice versa, right? And if he doesn't keep me from doing them, how can I think that I have the authority to keep someone else from doing them, right? And that goes back to love your neighbor as yourself. How dare I think that, I've been given this freedom, and this liberty, but I'm not going to let someone else do that. I certainly do things all the time that I disagree with, that I think are wrong, but I wouldn't want someone necessarily to force me to do, one thing or another. And therefore, I can't do that to someone else. And I might tell them, look, I disagree with what you're doing, but I'm not going to keep them from doing it. Unless, of course, again, it goes back to, whether or not they're taking away a liberty from someone else. So, that pretty much sums it up. One more thing, look, last time I posted this video, I deleted it for a couple of reasons. I didn't like the way I'd made it, and someone, a Christian obviously, posted, went to one of my other videos and posted a comment and said basically, how does, something about, so get to the point where God said it's okay to be a queer. And look, again, it goes back to love your neighbor as yourself. Where does God say it's okay to be a queer? Man, he doesn't, all right? But just look at the terminology that you're already using right there, calling them a queer. Look, man, I don't know what they prefer to be called, all right? But it's probably not queer. And I wouldn't want to be called some name just because I'm a Christian. I wouldn't want someone who wasn't a Christian to call me some, derogatory name. I think it's a terrible example of what a Christian is, and a perfect example of what you shouldn't be doing. You wouldn't want to be called, for whoever you are, you wouldn't want to be called that. You wouldn't want to be called the name. And so, hey man, do unto others, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think.